Well, congratulations fellow fans of The World Ends With You. We did such a good job with the marketing of Neo that now the entire franchise is left in our hands. No pressure. Hi there, people of the world, and today I just wanted to take a moment to talk about Tatsuya Kando's departure from Square Enix. Tatsuya Kando is a game developer and the series director for The World Ends With You. He's also worked on other Square Enix franchises like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. On June 1st, 2025, he released a statement that reads, "On a personal note, I left Square Enix on May 31st. During my 29 years there, I was involved in many projects, including Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, The World Ends With You, and more. I was able to gain invaluable experience. The feedback we received from everyone who played the game was very encouraging, and became the driving force behind our daily development. I'm really grateful, thank you so much. We'll continue to work hard to create interesting content that will make everybody smile." Probably the first thing you gather from this is that there's no hope of another World Ends With You game. To be realistic, this could be true. With one of the driving forces behind both titles in the series leaving the company that it's attached to, yes, the chances of us getting another game or anime are slimmer than they have ever been. But it's because of that we have to consider all the possibilities. There are roughly 3 paths for the potential future of the franchise, so let's take a quick look at some of the ideas. Firstly, we could still get another World Ends With You game, just without Tatsuya Kando's involvement. Square Enix still own the rights to the World Ends With You franchise, so whether or not we get a new game is ultimately up to them, as well as Japanese developer Hand, who they partnered with to create The World Ends With You. They of course have the ability to make more games in the franchise, especially when so many others who have worked on The World Ends With You still work at Square, including Tetsuya Nomura. Not only does Nomura play an important role in the World Ends With You franchise, being both a character designer and a producer, but he's also a key figure within Square Enix, having worked on multiple Final Fantasy titles and, of course, being the director of Kingdom Hearts. Whether or not there is another World Ends With You game is not only down to Square and Hand, but to his input as well. If any future games are made without Tatsuya Kando's involvement, they would look incredibly different. He has been the series director since the very beginning. Considering the teams working on The World Ends With You have always been small, his creative vision would have a much bigger influence on the games. Something developed by a smaller team would have more of the team's creative input reach the final product than something that was made by a larger team. The World Ends With You isn't made by a large team of developers, and it's not a AAA title, but that isn't to say that they wouldn't want to make another sequel or prequel game. If we got another World Ends With You game 14 years after the first, then truly nothing is off the table. Square also have more reason to keep the franchise alive, considering that there are more people who want to see it continue. The 14-year time gap between the first and second game meant that a lot of fans of the first game were lost during that time period. The second game was no longer targeted to their age demographic. But even though Neo didn't draw in as many players as people would have hoped, there are certainly still more fans of the franchise than there were previously. So there is still potential for a second game, and Tatsuya Kando still could be involved in its development, albeit in a very different role. His involvement in future projects would more than likely be smaller. However, it's not unheard of for people who previously worked on The World Ends With You to return to the franchise. The best example is Takeharu Ishimoto, the composer for The World Ends With You. He left Square in 2017, but he still returned to compose for the second game. If there is another game, anime, or other content for the franchise, Kando would more than likely be consulted in some way. What level of involvement he has is up to him and the rest of the team. This is of course hypothetical though, and there is always the chance that Neo was the last of the official content for the franchise. Of course, those outside the company have very little idea of what's going on behind the scenes. However, at the time of recording, we gather that Square Enix as a company is undergoing some pretty major reconstruction. It's entirely possible that Square could have made a business-driven decision to stop any production of future Tweeby projects. Whether the ideas for another installment are there or not, if the developers aren't given the time, resources, or money to create a new game, then realistically we won't be seeing anything new. But of course, without working inside the company itself, fans can't impact this. But that doesn't mean that we should keep the dedication we have for a franchise quiet. Franchises like The World Ends With You are considered niche, but regardless of how niche they are, they still have those that they've impacted positively. And fans do have the ability now more than ever to become creators themselves. Whether or not fans have the ability to impact a franchise is really down to the producers. But there is no denying that fans' voices and creations have the ability to carry forward the messages of a franchise. Fan voices and creations are a demonstration of the impacts that a franchise has had on them. The World Ends With You is definitely no different. You can see it in the outpouring of support for Kando's work, in the multitude of fan games and fan fiction which capture the characters' voices so accurately, and of course in entirely original concepts that fans create as well. For example, Urbano is a fantastic indie game which is currently being developed. The creator has stated that The World Ends With You was a huge inspiration of theirs, and I highly suggest that any fans like me go and check out the demo on Steam. It's through fan works and original works like Urbano that mean franchises are never truly gone. Whether you only get a new game every 14 years, or there is no official content at all, the torch is still always being passed on. The fans and any developers of future projects for franchises should be willing to take that torch, because inevitably, some of the biggest driving forces behind our favourite things will want to move on to other projects, or just to take a rest. So instead of fearing the end, we should respect that, and also celebrate their work. So regardless of what happens from now, I want to truly thank Kando for all of his work. It's thanks to his creative vision that The World Ends With You has a style and story that has had such a positive impact, not just on me, but to many others. He and the others behind the franchise are why Neo was even made in the first place. It was made because they were passionate about the franchise, and I know that there are so many more fans and people at Square who are still passionate about it too. I hope that that passion creates even more official works and more fan-inspired works too. And as a fan, I'll continue to remain passionate, to recommend the games, and to carry forwards the positive impact they've had on me in my own works. So if you made it here, thanks for sticking to this discussion till the end. Shameful YouTube plug, but I do have my own webcomic which I hope to carry forward some of the messages of The World Ends With You into. You can find links for that, as well as my other social media, all in the description. Remember, stay passionate, keep creating, and I will see you next time. Thank you, people of the world.